Hello again. It's good to be back, and I must apologise, of course, for my absence, which was due to YouTube suspending me for hate speech. I have spent part of the last week looking into YouTube's policies and finding out exactly why I was banned for a week, and also what YouTube mean by the expression hate speech. I shall have to phrase all this very delicately because, of course, I have no wish to be cast once again into the outer darkness. In the description to this video, I post a link to YouTube's community guidelines, and very interesting reading they make too. The first I knew of all this was when a thumbnail was removed from the video I did on the subject of tolerance, the one below this current video. I was told that this violated YouTube's policy on nudity. The image had been from an Aztec manuscript and showed a group of Aztecs wearing loincloths. None of them were naked. I let this ride, although I found it a bit odd that anyone would complain about an ancient image of that sort. I just substituted another picture, that of the Hindu Kali. A few hours later, a video I made in November was removed, and I was banned for a week because of hate speech. The video was entitled "Out of Africa, the Peopling of the World." I watched it through after it was banned and couldn't see anything likely to incite hatred of anybody. I merely discussed the three main ethnicities in Eurasia and Africa. When I asked, I was directed to a particular passage from the community guidelines on hate speech, which you can find by clicking on the link in the description to this video. Most of the examples there were about encouraging violence or hatred of various specified groups. I have never done anything of the sort, I need hardly say. I mentioned, though, in the video that a very large-scale study of human skulls from 3 continents had found differences in the average cranial capacity of the skulls. That is to say, if you filled an empty human skull with water, how many cubic centimetres it would hold. In one survey, the average cranial capacity of European skulls was found to be 1,481 cubic centimetres. The average from other continents was either higher or lower than this. It was for discussing this that I was banned from YouTube. Looking at those community guidelines on hate speech, we see examples of the things which YouTube regards as hate speech. These are remarks which may be made about people with listed qualities such as race, disability, gender, and so on. So obviously saying we should go out and hit people of any specified group is banned, and quite rightly too. Or we should drive them from our country. Again, I don't approve of that, and I dream of saying any such thing. One of the specific examples they do give was people with attributes, so to say, disability, race or gender, are less intelligent than us because their brains are smaller. This is where I fell foul of YouTube, although I hadn't actually said this. By discussing cranial capacity, and then remarking that it seemed to agree with other data, this was enough to be counted in the example I've just given. Of course, to any normal person, this sounds completely mad. For one thing, the size of a brain is not an infallible way of measuring intellectual ability. The classic instance of this is the writer and noted intellectual Anatole France. His brain weighed only 2¼ pounds, whereas the average for Europe is about 3 pounds. Byron's brain weighed 4 pounds. It was almost twice as heavy as Anatole France's brain. Brain size and cranial capacity are very crude indicators of intelligence, but I'd better not explore this topic further lest I be banned again. I see too why some comments are regularly removed from videos which I make. Another of the things which must not be said is regarded as hate speech is saying that any of the groups listed, that is to say race, gender, disability and so on, and I quote, has an agenda to run the world and get rid of us. I hope people will realise now that it is YouTube and not I who is deleting such comments. I must say I find all this absolutely insane and also very dangerous. I mean physically dangerous, because YouTube are ignoring real threats. Let me explain. People who say things like, I can't stand such and such people, seldom act on their dislikes. When members of the group they claim to dislike move in next door, those expressing negative feelings towards them usually rub along with them well enough. Saying, I don't like so-and-sos and I wish they would not come and live here is not really going to harm anybody. Hatred directed against individuals is another thing entirely, and it is this which is likely to result in violence, not vague ill feeling against some particular group, but actual hatred against a particular person. YouTube doesn't care about that though. They are so busy worrying about protected groups that they ignore genuine threats against individuals. I say this because we all know how readily comments are deleted from this channel, often for no discernible reason. Now let's look at the kind of thing which YouTube are happy to allow, and in fact they don't even notice. The other week I posted a video called The Dancing Israelis. Somebody called Billy King then made the following comment, which is still there. He said, I hope your end is slow, painful, humiliating and dehumanising, and I hope you first watch it happen to your wife, children and grandchildren. He sounds a right charmer, doesn't he? Now that's what I would call hate speech. It is directed against an individual, and I think I would feel alarmed if I encountered this man, who is incidentally motivated by Christianity, or so he claims, although whether he's read Jesus' teachings lately is another matter entirely. YouTube have no interest in that kind of thing, but just let anybody talk about the cranial capacity of different people and see how swiftly they are banned. I just hope they're talking about the weight of Lord Byron's brains not going to earn me another ban.